Alright everyone, he's managed to do it again. I've run out of the count of how many times in October this has already happened. I think it's a dozen or something, so every other day reliably we get some weird Joe Biden moment. He says something strange, he has an old man tantrum because he's asked the wrong question at the wrong time, including innocuous questions at this point. That's a warning sign. Sniffs another child and says creepy shit to her, like he did last week. Or he does this. He was doing an MSNBC appearance, and he goes on there more often than others because he knows it'll be nothing but softball questions. He's not going to get asked anything meaningful that's going to trigger him, although he still gets feisty sometimes during the interviews. I remember one Bushism was when some reporter, I think, was asking about Katrina, and he got grumpy at one point, or about the Iraq War and progress there, and it was considered hilarious. The lamestream media, produced a wide slew of articles on it. Well, Bush's breakdown, Bush's tantrum, another Bushism. He gets grumpy when called out for his failings. Back when they did journalism, that was a thing. You had whole books of Bushisms, entire websites dedicated to them. I notice you lack that on Biden. I think there's a reason for this. Now, name a publisher that's going to post the Bidenisms book. You'd probably get kicked off of publishing on demand on Amazon if you tried that too. Namely because Joe Biden's a bigot, so someone would complain about some of the quotes, I'm sure. During this appearance, at one point, he basically falls asleep. He appears, the reporter looked confused at what was going on, and it reminded me of another incident that happened earlier this year, or was it late last year, with Nancy Pelosi actually. She's also got Alzheimer's disease. She's also demented. If you had Feinstein in the public eye more, you'd probably see the same from her, by the way. She was asked, I can't remember what fucking question. The only thing people remember is her, Windows has stopped working moment. She shuts down for a moment, goes silent, staring directly into the camera like her brain is restarting, and then says, "Good morning, Sunday morning." And, it had nothing to do with what she was being asked or the conversation at the time. This is basically the same. The dude almost nodded off in the middle of a goddamn interview while he was himself speaking. It almost looked a little bit like a pre-mini-stroke moment. Are they giving him his warfarin? I think he's had a couple of aneurysms, so I'm not sure. They might already have him on this stuff. Maybe that's the only reason he's even still kicking at this point. He's the steward of GONE-Dor, as in he's mentally completely gone. This was a once-a-month thing on the campaign trail when he was running in the primaries. It was a couple of times a month in his first year. At the first half of this second year of his stewardship, it became like a weekly thing, maybe bi-weekly. Hardly a day has gone by in the last couple of months where there hasn't been a potential Biden gaffe video to make. I'm beginning to become worried that over the course of the subsequent year, assuming he doesn't die or get 25th or step down, I think it'd be wise for him to resign, make up a goddamn excuse, say, well, it's hashtag her turn and Kamala's got a vagina, so it's my responsibility to ride off into the sundown like all white men should do. That'd be a good slogan if you're running as a Democrat, by the way. Assuming that doesn't happen, I have a feeling that by the end of the third year, he's going to be a goddamn vegetable. The Alzheimer's progression timeline, you sort of have to look at, first you get the diagnosis, something's up with grandpa, something's up with great-grandma or something. They go in, they're like, look, I'm sorry, but you have dementia, and, we can slow it down maybe, but there's not a whole lot you can do. If you look at the timeline of the advance of dementia, whether it's straight-up Alzheimer's, Lewy bodies, or something like that, and you have a sample, we have a sample of a couple of years now since he started to show warning signs during the primaries that he wasn't quite mentally functioning properly. And you look at the advancement, the rapidity of the advancement of that disorder. It would be very interesting to me if he was capable physically of running for a second term. It would be odd to me if he wasn't beginning to resemble Ronald Reagan during his last public speech by the time of somewhere in the middle of his fourth year in office. At that point, you have to hide him from the public. You have to do a full Woodrow Wilson thing. Hide him from the public. He's clearly no longer even legally capable of signing documentation. And so his wife will have to do it, like Wilson's wife did. By the way, there's legislation from that period that's spurious insofar as if it's even goddamn legal, because the president may not have ever even read it. And it's going to be a freak show. You've got multiple wars going on, and rumors of wars, Taiwan and Korea. You have world economic issues. You have high social alienation. You're about to move into a very chaotic election season. I think there will be a red wave. There will be people that are pissed about that. And it happens to be that far leftoid part of the population that tends towards rioting and getting violent for political reasons. They never face consequences for it, though, and it doesn't get widely reported on. So, out of sight, out of mind if you're a penthouse dweller who works with the New York Times or CNN, I suppose. And you want the person who is effectively, technically the leader of the executive branch to not know mentally what's going on? The man lashes out repeatedly at reporters, including reporters from networks clearly loyal in part to him. He responds angrily when he's questioned on anything. He's not a goofy old grandpa figure. He's the angry old man who sits on his rocking chair yelling at the neighbor's kids, slipping slowly further into madness. The ice cream and Ray-Bans shtick should not work with anybody. That's not really Joe Biden. He's a cutthroat. He always was in the Senate. He wasn't reckoned as being one of the nicer members of Congress. Yeah, you got some goofmeisters in there who are just there to crack jokes. Joe Biden was never one of them. He was a tough-on-crime moralist back in the 80s and 90s. He hasn't changed. They've just changed the way that they brand him and present him to the public. They dress him up and make him look pretty. They put his aviators on, give him an ice cream cone, and after he has his bowel movement, they let him go outside for a while, where the Easter Bunny can tell him not to answer questions. These incidents are getting far too common. If the average person who's in their 80s begins having this many verbal problems, and they can't blame a stutter that doesn't exist, because it clearly doesn't. Verbal issues, creepy moments with young females specifically, and older females, doesn't seem to matter to Joe. I don't claim that he's, a pervert just for kids. I think he's just a pervert in general. He doesn't have any self-control anymore, definitely. You're having physical issues, you're falling down, you've had, the multiple falls on camera over the last fucking year. I think it's been 3 of them in that period of time, several more in the year before that. Normally, you go in for a cognitive test and the news may not be good. This has not apparently happened with Joe Biden. I'm sure that they dope him up to the eyeballs on everything under the sun before speeches at this point, because clearly when he skips a dose, he nods off or he says something unhinged and deranged. And I'm thinking to myself, if Trump did anything remotely similar to this, it would have been front page news. In fact, it was numerous times. He held his glass with 2 hands at one point and people thought it was evidence of cognitive decline. He held the railing when he walked down icy steps. I seem to recall that was considered to be evidence of him physically sundowning. Biden can't even keep awake while he's actively answering a question on a captive network that is nothing but loyal to him from top to bottom. MSNBC would fire you if you questioned anything that the Biden admin did. They don't even bother to conduct political journalism at the moment. Fuck, CNN has a better track record. The fucking WAPO has a better track record of questioning Joe Biden than MSNBC has. You should be excited. I think I'd be amped up. Okay, I'm going on this network. I know I'm not going to get any gotcha questions. I can sit here for an hour, fluff piece after fluff piece, softball after softball. I can't help but win. And then my core fans will like it. I get some more limelight. 10 people will actually watch this, more than will show up physically for a Biden rally most of the time. You should be pretty amped up. Give him a Red Bull before his appearances or something like that. Apparently he needs something stronger than the CIA wonder drugs. Quick, we'll call Sleazy P. Martini up, or his son Hunter. We'll get him some little crystals. Those will keep him going all fucking night. That's about all. Peace out.